morning. We are at day 9 of 100 Days of Community. And I am so glad that you guys have been joining and taking part. And the feedback has been absolutely amazing. You guys message me, text me, join the Facebook group. And honestly, it's just filling me up so much knowing how much this is filling up other people. Yesterday, we had a meeting because in the Conscious Parenting Group for Social Justice, we meet every 2 weeks, check in. It's a community call, right? How's everybody doing? What's going on? How are the kids? Need any help, tips, tricks? Just face to face time with parents and caregivers. And it was brought to my attention, two things were brought to my attention yesterday, but it was brought to my attention like a roadmap, like to make an actual roadmap. So while we're doing the 100 Days of Community, learning what it takes to be in there, but she brought up a good point. She was like, but the steps, like how does one meet their neighbor? Hey, Kate, good morning. How does one meet their neighbor? How does one go about implementing these things? So that's going to be something that I integrate into this, into the 100 Days of Community. I'm going to share that as well. And yesterday, I know was a pretty heavy day. Hi, Anissa. Yesterday, and anytime we talk about ancestral connection and ancestral work and ancestral veneration is a very heavy topic, very specifically for white body people because of the major disconnect, even sometimes for us as Black people, because there was such a major disconnect and we were handed Christianity, which is difficult to reckon with, right? Like, but that's not my ministry. If you would like someone who unravels that, Danielle Thomas on here, Unfit Christian on everywhere else. She is amazing. If you are Black and grew up Christian, God, where's her book? The Day God Saw Me as Black is phenomenal. I'll put that in there. Anyway, that's not what I was talking about. I'm talking about what I'm talking about. So, when we're talking about ancestral work and stuff like that, I got a text yesterday that asked, could we hold space for the grief for that? Like, is there a point in time in this work where you hold space for the grief? And my answer to that is yes, right? Because I remind people that this is grief work. This is trauma work. That's how the series of self is being, directed. Like, take your time, take a moment, right? I know the rush for like, we need community, we need it now. We've been needing community. We're going to always need community, and that's always going to be there. And we have time to get through those things. This first 10 days where like I'm offering it open and free to everyone. And really, it's still going to be free or available to anyone because if you cannot pay for the subscription, you can email me, right? You could email me about yourself, about your friend, whoever would need a year comped, and I would do that with no questions asked. So it's available for everyone, but just kind of bringing it down into a more intimate space. We will be taking intentional pauses. We will be taking breaks. Okay, we're not going to show up every day with a notepad and a pen. We're going to turn around and say, okay, what did you experience? What came up for you? I want to do a monthly check-in, right? Like let's have a Q&A sort of thing. What was coming up for you during this month, during this week? These are things to sit with, right? You don't need to rush through. There's no urgency. I want us to move away from that and sit with the grief, right? One of her points in regards to it when she texted me was she never thought about, because I posed the question, who were you before you were white? And she was like, I never thought about my people made a choice to be white. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. Many did. There's a lot of books, striving for whiteness, how the Irish became white in America. I have some books. I'm looking because I'm looking at my bookshelf. Most of my books on this stuff is in my tiny cottage in the back, which I'll be probably in there next week after everything's completely dried out from the flood. But yes, many made a choice. And then I also say when you're sitting with that grief is think about what is a choice under duress, right? Because yes, there is a point where every white-bodied person, very specifically because they were immigrants coming over here and coming from war-torn countries, right? Like when the Irish came over here, they were coming from under duress in their own lands, right? Many sent their children hoping they made it to America and what followed later. There's so much, and there's so many things I want to share with you and think about when it comes to ancestral connection and movies to watch and media to consume that is not from a lens of whiteness and Americanism. We must decenter that lens. Matter of fact, let me see. Barley, where the barley grows, I think is a really good one for under understanding what the Irish went through and the wind that shakes the barley. Yes. The Wind That Shakes the Barley. It's a movie. If you are of Irish descent and you would like to see what the Irish War of Independence looked like, um, from the Irish lens, right? And then see what it was like to come over to America, to be considered the scourge of the Irish after fighting through those things, and they force assimilation. And the only reason why assimilation is not possible for Black people is because race is the first identity, right? I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere in the world I can go and be like, I'm a white woman. Like, none. DNA doesn't matter. Ethnicity doesn't matter. My proximity to whiteness. I have a whole white mother. My 23andMe is 53% Irish DNA. I still can't go be white anywhere. That's how race works, right? So it's inescapable. But for those that were in white bodies, they were able to escape into the folds of whiteness, right? This is where that dissonance comes in, right? You grow up your ethnic identity in your home as white bodied people, right? Again, I grew up in New York City, so I knew all sorts of ethnic white people, right? I knew Yugoslavians, Albanians, Germans, Irish, Italians, and I knew them from their areas, right? Some of my friends were from Calabria, some were from Puglia, some were from Lecce, like, and so the dialects were different, right? Their languages, their foods were a little bit different. So I was exposed to understanding how different many Europeans are, even in the way that they look. You could see that there's a range of looks. It's not a European beauty standard. I want to remind you guys, it's an Aryan one. But in that, holding that culture in their home, which is super important as much as they could, right? A lot of my friends spoke their native tongue. But when you step out of your home, you're still white. That is systemic versus interpersonal. So you had an opportunity to push back against becoming white in certain aspects, but instead many chose that they thought it was safer. And the grief to hold is, yes, the grief, let me tell you, the grief to hold is what you lost, right? How many families were separated? How many grandkids can't talk to their grandparents because their grandparents still don't talk English? Um, how many have lost connection to their lands, their foods, their practices, their traditional clothes? Like, right? Like, there were some cool things to wear inside of various cultures. You just lose access to all of that. That's where the grief comes in. The accountability, right? Because remember, we're not co opting anybody else. The accountability comes in leaving behind Black and brown brothers, sisters, cousins in this struggle of violent racism and white supremacy delusion, right? That's where accountability comes in for white body people who understood what it was to be oppressed. These are not people that are like, oh, right now you get like the white people like, oh, I have no idea. Let me learn about racism and come and save you. And I'm like, let you learn about your own colonization and save yourself. Do that work. And then maybe you could be in community with others and in solidarity so we could dismantle the shit show together. But realistically, our grandparents who were white knew. Okay. My grandmother, who came over here in the 50s, and if you watch that movie, um, came over here on the brinks of the War of Independence of Ireland, right? She understood what it was for all of a sudden foreign forces to come into your land. And that's how we get the word landlord, right? The Brits came in. Ireland is the bread bowl for colonization. It is the fucking breeding ground, right? If you are indigenous and you have anyone who suffered from going to boarding schools, understand that that happened in Ireland first in laundry houses. Like that, it was like, ooh, they tested and tried and true everything in Ireland and then went abroad and terrorized everywhere. It was tried and true in Ireland. And these people came over here. My own grandmother, like I said, in the 50s. So this is not that far. Left Ireland on the brink of that, but still told my mother no niggas will walk through this door. Loved me, but my father was not allowed in her house. So there is an accountability that needs to be held and had for that, because these people knew. And for us to now sit with their grandchildren, because again, that was just my grandmother, for us to sit with their grandchildren who pretend, oh, we have no idea what oppression is. We, I'm shocked. I'm appalled. Well, either your grandparents didn't talk to you about what they went through in their own lands, or you are so far removed from it because your people were the colonizers in the 1600s, and you still need to touch the grief of what it took to turn around and betray everything you ever knew and to come here and forge a life, which meant leaving behind everything and then colonizing a land and people and sitting down and watching it happen to others. Another point that I want to make when it comes to grief, a few years ago, a friend and I were having a conversation. He's a rabbi. He is amazing. I hold him in such high regard, and we've had such very difficult conversations in his house. I had a cleaning company for years. I still have it. And we began as I was providing him cleaning services. And me and my team would come in, and I would wind up having these conversations with him. So this is in his home with his family, and it's very uncomfortable because I'm asking very uncomfortable things and back and forth, right? But one of the most poignant things he pointed out, he said, and it's very prevalent for today, he's like, Des, when we think of the Holocaust, everyone knows that Nazis are bad. We see that now, right? Everybody like, oh, my mother's a Nazi. And it's like, maybe not. Maybe we don't, if we need to reserve words for to have a deeper impact. But he was like, we've history has said that Nazis are bad, and that is true. What history doesn't talk enough about is the people that sat in the window and watched that train go by. And I'm holding right now because I'm holding my tears back, because he's like, the train ran right through fucking town, carrying people to their inevitable torture, death, disposition, war camps, ghettos, whatever fucking unimaginable atrocities that were happening during that time. Again, same time, right? Like, I want to do a world map of these, of like the generations that are not that far back, like our grandparents, maybe our grandparents. But if we would just look at a world map of oppression for our grandparents, they know, they understand, they witness, they experience, whatever have you. And that is a collective grief that needs to be held. Because even if you were not the active Nazi, your family was somebody who sat in the window and watched. There's accountability to be taken for that, right? There's accountability, there's grief. Yes. I actually I'm going to look it up on my Substack where I did that. Now I was like, I didn't do a picture, but I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share in this article that comes behind this live today. I did a series that was like, we are not so far removed from, we are our grandparents, we are their grandparents, and showing how to hold space for these people's truths and what they were going through in their generation. We are not new every generation. We are a holdover. I often joke about myself. I'm like, I'm a boomer light. Like, I know I'm Gen X, which has its own fucking issues, right? We were definitely left to raise our fucking selves. Like, I definitely think a lot of the newer generations are fucking soft and pussies. And but then there's that part of me that healed that's like, how beautiful is it that they get to feel? That they get to fucking hold grief, that they get to cry, that they get to do those things that we were not allowed to do. There's no fucking crying in baseball, right? I think that that's beautiful. But I don't pretend that in my mind, I'm not like, they really are snowflakes. They really are pussies. What is happening right now? But it's because I was raised by a bunch of boomers who did not have the ability to fucking touch their emotions, their feelings, and still don't. Like, they just don't. And like, I still am in relationship with those boomers, and I just like, it is what it is, and that just is what it is. Like, I get it, you know. Okay, it's fucked up. I really wish that you had therapy and community, but you did it, and here we are. And those people were raised by a silent generation. And that silent generation are usually our grandparents that came from some war-torn place, right? That silent generation are the people that came from Nazi Germany, right? As refugees, if they were accepted, because more Nazis were accepted into the United States than fucking Jewish refugees, just, for a matter of fact, right? Someone says, and literally their handle is someone, so I fucking love that. Someone, it's the crying through it and still doing it that I'm encouraging. Yes, thank you. Yes, it's wild that they can do that. They can hold all these spaces. But when you think about those generational connections instead of disconnects, we consistently talk about our generational disconnects, right? Like that silent generation, what the fuck did they go through? What did they go through? What did they witness? What did they see? That generation literally witnessed war all around them on the forefronts. Like our grandparents witnessed war in their home, right? In a real way, right? It's a lot of the reason why Europeans think that Americans as its entirety are a bunch of punks, because we don't understand it in that way as Americans. Then you got to break it down like as Black people, we understand that. As immigrants in America understand it. The indigenous in America understand it in a different sort of way. But white Americanism is an insane blinder to accountability, grief, and the connections of our generational trauma and grief. So you have, we're here at this generation separated from our grandparents, but our grandparents witnessed this live and in full effect, atrocities happening. At the same time, right, this is my little vocal word map. At the same time, you have Nazi Germany, you have the War of Independence in Ireland, you have civil rights happening here, you have the rise of Jim Crow, the Ku Klux Klan, you have indigenous fucking, fighting for their own citizenship in their own land. Like all of this is happening in our grandparents' generation. This is not, get your anti-racism cap off that we're talking about slavery. That in of itself is a horrible truth in history. But I'm talking about your grandmother. Like I'm talking about my father went to segregated schools. I'm 45. He was born in 1947. This is not that long ago. The 50s, 40s, and 50s, 30s hold world atrocities that our grandparents and some of our parents witnessed. I often tell people, as a Black person here in America at 45 years old, I'm the first generation, count that, the first generation of Black people born free in this land, though we were drug here in the 1600s. That's not wild to you? First generation, born without any laws against my existence that are overt. The indigenous of this land did not become citizens of their own land until 1974. I was born in 79. Some of their children our first generation, in a land that they've inhabited for millennia. These are the things. That is wild and shitty in the extreme. Very wild. And this is part of that work, that grief work, that accountability, is when that is decentering whiteness. You cannot look at this work, community building, anti-racism, anti-oppression, through the lens of one, Americanism, two, whiteness. Got to decenter those two views, right? Because Americanism is about exceptionalism, about nationalism, and about building a white ethno state. When everybody was going wild, because now everybody's forgotten about Gaza, but when it was at the forefront of white liberal movement, I'm like, how are you not dismantling your settler colonialism here? Right here. How are you not grappling with that is who you are to the indigenous people of this land? If Israel is so terrible, who are you? Who is America? America moved into this land, and here you guys are. So you have a bunch of people, and then on top of that, being wildly anti-Semitic in the fucking process, which was just a whole lot of other stuff I talked about. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's the dissonance for me, right? So today, and I'm here at the top of my hour, but today I did want to give the space for that grief, for you guys to sit with and think about that. And today's day was supposed to be about how cultural practices can heal disconnection. But I'm going to give a break today. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about how we are not so far removed. I want you to think about what your grandparents went through. Where could you hold accountability for that? And where can you hold grief? Because that is truthfully community. It can't be an echo chamber, right? We can't say, well, fuck those people. Like, I would never say fuck my grandmother. And I just shared with you what my grandma said. It's never fuck my grandma. Like, it's never gonna be fuck my grandma. She's dead now. You know what I'm saying? We would have definitely had to have a reckoning of that conversation. I would have sat with my grandmother like, yo, hi, it's me, I'm niggas. Like, what are you having? What is the dissonance? Where are we? What are we doing right now? What is happening? And how could you have that feeling knowing that you came to this land and they called you the scourge of the Irish, when they depicted you as an Irish person as monkeys in papers, when they called you dirty, when they gave you like your fucking, when they talked about your food, when, like the idea of like cabbage and ham was like dirty food, the same way they did to enslaved Africans. What the fuck are you thinking about? What is the dissonance you're suffering with? And are we able to fix that so we can be in community as grandma and grandbaby? And that is the work. That is the grief. That is the community. Building it within your own systems. Because you guys, very specifically, white people will sever a relationship. Fuck, okay, boomer, which I love the term. Because, yes, okay, boomer. But what work are you doing to understand that boomer, right? How did they grow up? What did they see? If we weren't hugged as Gen Xers, them motherfuckers weren't even looked at as boomers, okay? Their families didn't even look at them. Like, they were just moving through, and that is being raised by a silent generation. They're silent for a reason. Trauma, violence, oppression. I don't want to fucking talk about it. I want to forget it. But they didn't forget it. Raise your hand if all your family members saved foil. If you couldn't throw out a damn thing. If you remember, if you burned some toast, scraping off that black part because it's still yummy. They didn't forget. It showed up. It showed up. Showed up in their parenting. Maybe they didn't hug you or talk to you because they were so used to losing something. How many children did they watch die? Or how many boxcar kids? Imagine putting your kid on a fucking train. You guys helicopter in a park. Imagine putting your kid on a train and hoping they make it to a city. Hoping. Imagine putting your kids on a fucking boat from Ireland and hoping they make it to America. hoping. They didn't have, there was no FaceTime. Hey, Ma, I'm here. A wing and a prayer, baby. A wing and a fucking prayer. So by the time you get settled, and I guess like you're an American, it's supposed to be great. I don't know if I could really get attached, right? Because I got so many fucking traumatic issues going on that connecting with a kid just ain't on my fucking, who knows? When can it be taken away from me? Right. And that lack of building that sort of community, that in home is where we are now. We could just deal with those generations, silent boomer, Gen X. And many of us who are sitting here doing this work are those people, right? We aren't the Gen Xers who are like, oh, shit. We came from some fucked up systems. So sit with that grief. And I want you to separate what's the difference between grief and accountability. Grieve what you lost. Grieve what your folks lost, right? And then hold them accountable for not standing in solidarity. Hold them accountable for watching the train go by. And then ask yourself what you're going to do different. Because imagine how history would have changed if nobody sat down and watched those trains go by. Yolanda made a good point in our meeting yesterday. She said, imagine if when the first boat arrived from Africa on the shores of Jamestown and you seen strange black bodies being pulled off of a boat and you're there in the square, and mind you, they're there to displace the hardworking rural farmer, right? Because these people are more efficient. Imagine if they said, absolutely not. What are you doing? We will not go for this. Absolutely not. We wouldn't be sitting here having these conversations. So the power is within us. It's us, right? We the people really should mean we the people. Like there's some really lofty ideas in a lot of the slogans of America that we just need to reclaim. Someone says, this is my anti-love theory in action. Called love, but the divide of care is palpable. Palpable. Thank you for giving it words. My absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here. Mary says, I'm a boomer on the cusp, but boomer nonetheless. Yeah, like I call myself a boomer light. Like, and just because I was around them so much, like, right? Like that just is what it is. Also, yes. Oh, I'm trying to scroll back. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I miss these conversations. My mom taught at segregated school. Yeah, like there's some schools in Georgia that just were like desegregated in the 90s, like their prom. Like literally, I think it's Cobb County. I'm not even sure, but it's absolutely wild. Whiteness and the continual protection of it is literally hurting and destroying the world as we know it. I mean, we need reconstruction. We got a lot to fix, but whiteness as a construct needs to be thoroughly dismantled and dethroned. I 100% agree. When I explain what whiteness is nothing but a construct, right? It is a power construct. It is it is literally the only thing that holds whiteness together is power. And it's power over another. It's not power with, right? There's no power with other white people. There's plenty of disempowered white people. Whiteness is a system of power over others, including other white people, other poor white people, right? Like other, like we're watching it with this federal freeze, though it can't go on but for so long because there's checks and balances, and he's not a dictator yet. And it's up to us to make sure he does not become one. Um, the people who are going to be most impacted if it were to go on for long are his base, but it's the power over even other white people, poor white people, disabled white people, and very specifically anyone who is non-white. But when you think about whiteness, I describe it as a socioeconomic political stance. Whiteness simply told people who can make money and who could vote. That is what happened in 1619. They were like, oh shit, We have to separate ourselves from these people that we are bringing over to here. They are ready. We're effectively doing that with shipping indigenous people off to boarding schools and force breeding them and turning them quote unquote white. Right? So they were upping their white majority. But even when that construct was created, white men could not vote. And I love to remind people of that. White men could not vote unless they owned property. Property became white women, white children, enslaved Africans, land. Tell me how that construct has shifted, changed, morphed, or benefited anyone, even white bodies, right? Because from that, you get the patriarchal rule that harms men before it harms the white women, which harms the white children, which in turn, inside of your trauma filled hierarchies of whiteness, harms the globe because abuse falls out of where it's happening and it goes on to everybody else. So yes, I agree. It needs to be completely dismantled, dethroned, because it's serving nobody. It's serving no one. Scrolling through these last comments. So much fucking trauma. My family of origin was a tangle of abusive ick. Yeah. And really, all of us, right? Like, who the fuck wasn't? And that is what we really need to recognize. If we are going to be so trauma aware, trauma informed, now we need to look at these systems that we've been living under for the past 2,000 some odd years, and recognize we've all suffered, all. And that solidarity is going to help us dismantle it all. My grandfather was a World War II vet and couldn't talk about it until close to the end of his life. My uncle did 2 tours in Vietnam. You think that that was fucking dinner conversation? And he just shut up, head down. He went to work. He provided. He did what a good man should do. Right? Right? That just did what he needed to do. I don't know if he was happy. I don't know if he felt fulfilled in his life. And that is something that we really need to be realistic about with the men in our lives. Like, did he even want a wife and family? Was this okay for him? Like, nope. But he did what he was supposed to do. And he never spoke about anything. Only with pride, right? Like, I served. And that was it. But just think about the trauma. Like, you guys need here comes my boomer before I leave. Uh we live in a world where motherfuckers need a trigger warning about a post they're gonna read. And I'm like, I guess, I guess. But we'll give zero grace to your boomer fucking parents, grandparents. But you need a fucking trigger warning if I'm talking about I'm going on vacation because you have poverty trauma. But we're talking about people that quite literally watch people die, friends, family, in sometimes in their own arms, homes, family, yanked out, displaced. Like what we're watching and witnessing in Gaza is not a new thing. That is a very American atrocity to create, right? Because that is a land grab. That is an American Christian nationalist land grab that we're watching while everybody's running around being anti Semitic as fuck. That is a Christian nationalist, Christian Zionist land grab. That is what it looks like when an empire is expanding. Right? That we're watching it here on paper. It's less violent, but it's on paper. Questioning indigenous birthright in their own land, in their own land, to expand a white Christian patriarchal ethno state. And Christian Zionism tells them that they are the new chosen people, right? The only reason they told you already, if there wasn't an Israel, we would have created one. It's like you guys aren't even listening or connecting the dots. I don't know what is happening. But I want you to think about that today because I am at the top and I do want to respect people's boundaries. Give space for the grief. Sit with what you lost. I am I have a Facebook group. I'm super duper available. Come join it, right? Like whenever you become a subscriber, it has a link to the Facebook group. Come in. There's a chat there. You can reach me. I am that available, that accessible to move you through this grief work. I work with a grief counselor, Stephanie Rodriguez, inside of the group. We hold space for all of that because this work is going to take unraveling all of it. It is a tangled web that we have woven, and it must be unraveled, right? And that is going to take grief work, trauma awareness, and accountability. So that is day 9 of your community building. Tomorrow we will come back and we will talk about what the lineup was. Let's see, we don't have to stick to lineups because we are doing this our way. And we're going to talk about more on cultural disconnection. And I'm going to share another story, but I'm not going to give you that tip now. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow's day 10. That will be, I'm going day 10. It was supposed to be all free, and it is. If you have a financial barrier, email me, scholarships at Desiree B. Stevens. I have no problem. I will comp you. I trust you, right? I trust you. If you want to continue along, that is what you need to do. If you cannot afford it, email me. I'd rather have people in here that are wanting and willing to do the work and holding that space and that container. Do not ever feel like I don't understand surviving capitalism. I want to be accessible and equitable to all. I also want to survive capitalism. So subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Be gentle with yourself. I want you to drink water, move your body, take deep breaths. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.